All right, guys, welcome back to the Pulse of Willie and Al. How's it going today, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's almost Thanksgiving time here in about a week or so. So really looking forward to stuffing my face full of turkey and any other meats that I can, you know, legally eat. So yeah.
Dude, I miss
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Being able to like fill your belly full and fall asleep on the living room floor watching football.
Oh yeah.
There's not
Yeah.
many things that are better or considered socially okay at someone's house,
Yeah.
other than it being Thanksgiving. So,
I'm going away this year, and I'm hanging out with friends that aren't big football fans. So like, yeah,
that's tough.
yeah, so, a little
But
bit. Yeah.
I feel like the phone might have to be out during that time and like checking,
Hey, look, Shane, Red Zone can't watch itself, all right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
Scott Hansen
Scott
needs
Hansen
us.
needs me. He
Needs
needs
us, right? He needs us. All right, guys. So we are back today with episode 62, Out of the Blue. And the reason we got this one today is some teams might be out of the blue and actually into the red heading into week 12 here. Uh, so
Jesus.
we got some fun things to discuss this week. Big things from week 11, some big happenings to share and talk about, and then just a little bit of thoughts, just a sprinkle of thoughts onto
Sure,
week 12.
sure.
But let's go ahead and start with NFL storylines. And listen, this game seems like it was forever ago, and that's the way most Thursday night games feel. But
Yeah.
like, how often Prime gets back-to-back week Thursday games that are just epic, right? Like,
Well, especially too after everything that happened on Sunday, that commander, like I remember I was watching right before the Sunday night game started. I was watching the pregame, and they were talking about the Commanders game, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that game happened. I forgot about that game."
yeah,
And
yeah,
I watched that game.
yep.
Like I watched it.
Yeah. I know I mentioned last time, but it's so great with the time change now because I can wake up a little early and catch the game in the
Yeah.
morning. It's kind of cool. So definitely was really awesome. But just the main takeaway that I got from that game was Barkley's just a dog, man. And of course I'm playing against him in 2 leagues in fantasy this week.
Sure.
Of course. And I was like,
Yeah.
for most of the game, I'm like, you know what? They're holding him in all right. Like he's doing okay. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I read this article. I see the part of, oh yeah, Barkley scores 2 touchdowns in 17 seconds, and I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be lovely. But uh, again, Barkley's a dog. He's playing better
Yep.
than he has at any point in his career. You look at the stats; he's killing it for the Eagles right now. And I firmly believe he's the MVP of that team right now. But the Eagles seem really good.
Uh, Something seems missing with them, and I don't know what it is. And I think what it is for me is like, you know what? No, I know what it is. As somebody that has Jalen Hurts on a fantasy team, I just feel like a lot of times I like look at halftime, and he's like 6 of 13 for 48 yards,
Yeah.
and like and I get it because like they have Barkley, so they can just run it down people's throats, and like that's fine. But like I don't know, this team still seems like a bit disjointed, and like they're one bad loss away from like the city of Philadelphia just wanting to fire Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, which
Like
is
it feels
it's
like I've never
wild,
seen
dude.
I've never seen a team be 8-2 and have the team like fans calling for the coach to be fired. It's
Right.
bananas to me.
Dude, he's on a what 6 game winning streak and like they're
Yeah,
they're all up in arms about him. It just
yeah.
it really blows my mind. And they needed to win this game, I firmly believe, but dude, you look at the way Howie Roseman has constructed this team.
Yeah.
Not only have they brought in high profile free agents to add to this team, remember it was just a few years ago that they traded for AJ Brown. They signed Saquon Barkley in the offseason. You look at this defense, they basically have the University of Georgia at Philadelphia on
Right.
defense. Cooper DeJean looks amazing. Kenyon Mitchell has been playing great this year. This team
Yeah.
is loaded, absolutely loaded.
And Cooper DeJean also returning punts for them and
Yeah,
like succeeding at that as well.
dude,
Like,
first of all, he's an incredible playmaker with the ball in his hands, but
yeah.
I'm shocked. Anyone that's in this locker room knows how talented this may be, the most talented roster in all of football.
And that was the expectations for them going in. Like, hey, we have this, we're stacked.
Yeah.
Like, we're stacked, and we then added Saquon Barkley. Like, and so far, like, they're holding up to expectations, but like, they just, things still seem like a little disjointed from time to time, more than you want to from a team that's 8-2.
Yeah.
But they're going to have some tough tests down the stretch, and I like they have a real shot at the 1 seed. They
Yeah.
do.
I mean,
Like,
if you look at the next few weeks, and I listen, they play at the Rams, which the
that's
Rams.
that's not a gimme game.
No, it's
That's not
definitely
a
not,
gimme game.
because Stafford can go off for 4 touchdowns in a game. Like they beat the Ravens last year, right? Or did they beat the Ravens last year?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So they beat the
yeah,
Ravens last year. Then after that, they go and play at the Ravens. They got to
yeah.
play the Steelers. They got to play the Commanders again. And then you best believe the Cowboys and Giants at the end of the year, the last 2 weeks, are going to be trying to play spoiler. Now, whether they can or not, well,
I mean,
that's a big difference. But
I think that like Cooper Rush and Tommy DeVito aren't really gonna.
no, but this is the thing. The Giants' defense is fairly good. And that's the
Yeah,
thing that's kind of unfortunate for the Giants, is that if they had a solid quarterback and some better play on the offensive line, they could be pretty good there. But
yeah,
it is interesting to see like the Eagles fans the way they are with Sirianni. It just it makes me chuckle. But with this team, and as I said, they seem real good, and I believe that.
mhm.
But the one thing they do very, very well right now is run the ball very well with Barkley.
Yeah,
The one thing Detroit's very, very good at, or rather, one of the things Detroit is very, very good at, is stopping the run. So I don't really think there's going to be a ton of room for the Eagles unless their passing game comes alive. I don't think there's going to be a ton of room for them to be able to have a ton of success against a team like Detroit. Now, again,
yeah.
anything can happen on any given Sunday, but I have a hard time seeing the NFC not going through Detroit at this point. I really do. Um, I don't know, man. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Detroit still has like a kind of tough schedule too. And they play in a pretty tough division. Like, say
Yeah,
what you want about the Eagles, like the NFC East, like the NFC East minus the Commanders is pretty ass this year.
it is. It is.
Like, yeah. So,
Uh,
but we'll see. But the Commanders though, like, I felt bad because this was a game like this. If had they won this would have been a big win for them. But like,
yeah, it would have been.
they're just a young team. Like,
They
and
are,
I
man.
think there's enough tape now on Jaden Daniels that teams are getting a little smarter on how to stop him,
Yeah. I'll tell you,
and the Commanders in general. Like,
they've played some
yeah,
very tough games the last 2 weeks. Very
yeah,
tough. Against the Steelers and the Eagles. They then go they play at home against the Cowboys and Titans. The Titans have a good defense, but I think they're beatable by Washington if
yeah,
Washington plays well. And then they play at the Saints. So looking at their last games, and I mean I don't really know how good the Falcons are because of, well, we'll talk about them. But really the rest of the way, the only team that I see that should really give them a big challenge the rest of the way are
yeah,
the Eagles out of the last 6 games that they're going to play.
yeah.
So,
And you know what Washington might be, and I don't know why I didn't see this sooner, but they might just like, and I mean no disrespect to this, but like they might just be a good bad team. Like they beat up on the bad teams or the mediocre teams, and like they kind of struggle a little bit against the good teams. And
Yeah.
I think that's better than where Washington has been for the last like 600 years. It feels like.
And I think it shows a lot of promise for them going forward.
Yep,
I'm definitely happy for
yep,
Dan Quinn. I'm happy for that organization, happy for the fans. Um,
yep,
but I think with another year of draft and free agency, maybe a couple high profile free agents,
yeah,
they could really be in for something there. Um,
yeah, yeah. No, it's the first time I've ever said that the future actually looks bright in Washington. So like, yeah.
like, let me ask you, last year, obviously we started podcasting, but like last year when we were talking about the NFL and the Commanders, did you ever envision that we'd be having this conversation now?
No,
I was
no,
I was really prepared for like the next decade of them being terrible.
no. There are certain things in the NFL that you could always have set your watch to, and one of them was Washington always being a laughable franchise.
Well, that's about to change. No longer.
Yeah,
Because we have a new team that we're going to get to in a little bit that will take that crown. And you'll be very happy
cool.
to know some of the some of the reasons why.
Yeah,
Um so the Packers at the Bears. Now, I got to ask, are you a bit concerned about Green Bay after this game?
Green Bay should have lost this game. They played like butt, man. Like they played like butt. And they got bailed out by bad coaching on Chicago's end. Like that, I just want to talk about that last drive for a second
Yep.
because they had like 38 seconds left, and they're at I think it's like what like Green Bay's like I don't know 30 or
Yep.
40 or something, and like they just decide to settle for the field goal
Yeah.
instead of trying to like make plays. You're like, yeah.
I
Also,
understand taking the points, but I also understand like exhausting the options. It's difficult to drive sometimes.
well,
And
because you saw the same thing in the Chargers Bengals game, except
yeah,
the reverse, where the Chargers were like, "Hey, I think we could probably settle for points," and they were like, "You know what? No, fuck it. Let's try to get this touchdown," and they got it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I also though shout out to Green Bay special teams because they knew that Santos has a low trajectory on kicks, and they
yeah.
were smart. They were smart enough. Like that's the heads up play, but it should have never gotten to that. Like,
No,
and
it
Caleb Williams played well too. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, it just I don't know, man. Like Green Bay, they're 7-3 right now. I'm just not sure they're that good. I mean, I look at it
they're not
next,
consistent. I think they're good. They're just never consistent.
but this is the thing. Like, look at the teams they're going to face next. They play San Francisco, which I mean, we'll talk about them, but like that's still a
That could be a win.
but it's a very talented football team that they have, San
Sure.
Francisco. Miami, who
Yeah.
like Miami could go off on one week and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, okay, Tyreek Hill had 3 touchdowns against them. I don't think that's
Miami still doesn't play defense though, so
yeah,
I don't
that's
trust that.
a bit concerning. But then they play Detroit, so
Well,
if
yeah.
they could go 1-2 after this, and then we're looking at a team that's 8-5, and then
Yeah.
or there's a chance they could lose all three, or there's a chance. I don't see them any way they beat Detroit, but maybe they go
I,
3-0 in this, and we're looking at a team that's 10-3, and it's very different. But I don't know, man. I don't like the way they're playing recently.
yeah, I think that I think what keeps them in it is like Matt LaFleur is a really good coach.
Yes.
And I think that that alone, they will always be in games.
Hmm.
Like yeah, like I said, they just haven't been consistent this year. It's been a weird year. Jordan Love gets hurt that week one. He holds out in the offseason for the contract. He gets it, immediately gets hurt. Then they reel off 3 straight with Malik Willis, and you're like, what?
Okay, well,
Uh,
this team's really much better than we thought.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, they just haven't been consistent. And
Mhm.
I think this is a big game for Green Bay this week. San Francisco eliminated them in the playoffs last year in pretty heartbreaking fashion. So if they're not going to get up for this game, then I don't. What are we doing?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I'm not sure.
yeah,
Let's go ahead and stay in the NFC North. We'll talk about let's talk about these guys last, okay?
sure.
The Vikings, let's talk about them. So they beat another bad team from the AFC South. But they're still sitting at 8-2, which is crazy. Like we actually need to consider that this team is making the playoffs. They are going to, full of like a catastrophic end to the season. They are making
Yeah.
the playoffs this year.
They're making the playoffs, but getting out, they're losing in round one. Like, I think we can all agree on that.
I could see them beating a what? They're not gonna get a home game.
No.
Nope.
Nope. They'll have to play somebody like probably like the Eagles
Oh,
or
yeah, because
the winner of the NFC West or South. Like,
yeah. So Arizona, I don't know. That could be an interesting matchup. I don't know,
yeah, I
man.
don't know.
Imagine imagine something happens to Detroit and they drop a few games and then they end up having to play Detroit in the opening round. Like that would just be brutal.
Yeah.
Um, that would be really tough. But I still listen. They still are able to make plays. Like I'm still seeing Sam Darnold on red zone throw a touchdown passes. So I don't know, man.
But he's doing more Sam Darnold things than before, and that's a little concerning for me.
It
There's
is.
the one where like I want to say I can't remember the play, but like there's one where he like takes the snap and Jones kind of goes the wrong way and they just kind of like run into each other and they fumble it. And you're
Yeah,
like,
that was not good.
what do we like? It's shit that like that I'm like, oh, old Sam Darnold still exists and he pops his head from time to time. And my fear with that is that he's going to rear his head at the wrong time in the playoffs for the Vikings.
Yeah. I don't.
Because everything else, Vikings defensively, great team. Offensively, they look at the receivers they have,
Yeah, with Addison
and
and
they still have
Jefferson
and
and
they still have
Hawkinson
guys that
there.
are going to come back. Yeah,
Well,
like
Hawkinson's been playing pretty well since he came back. I
yeah,
mean, he's looked good. So not great, but definitely had a game or two that you're like, all right, like this looks like TJ
yeah,
Hawkinson. So um, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Kevin O'Connell, I think he's a good coach. I want to. I think it's undervalued how good it is having a guy like Brian Flores on your defense. I really
yeah.
do. I really do, man. Like people have a bad taste in
I
their
mean,
mouth.
we had him at one point. Like
Yeah,
it's yeah, can confirm.
I mean, people have the bad taste in their mouth because of what happened with him as a head coach. But I'm telling you, man, like he knows defense inside and out, and he's gotten this group to play fairly well. Now they added Stephon Gilmore. I get that. Like he's a Pro Bowl
Yeah,
caliber player, but this team is playing well.
yeah.
I mean, on defense, they're not losing games for them. So, um, but let's talk about the king in the division, right? The Lions, man. They're cruising. Of course, they figure out
Boy,
a way to get out of that Houston mess with where Goff throws 5 picks, and then they come back and just absolutely steamroll the Jags. Like
yeah.
it was like they didn't belong in the same building as them. And I thought at
I
some point they were going to pull their starters, and they just kept laying it on thick.
yeah.
I was
I
like, all
I I
right.
tuned into that game early for some reason, and I was like 6-0 Jacksonville, and I was like, what? And then I no sooner had I watched Montgomery score the first touchdown, then I was like, huh, weird. This is like, all right. And then like I checked back in like I think 20 minutes later, and it was 28-6. And I was like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
My apologies. Detroit just took a minute to get going. My apologies.
Yeah. It's
God, they love playing the AFC South. They love it.
yeah, they definitely do. It's like let's try all the things that we want to try against this team. Amon Ra had a great week. You know, you just look at all their whole squad did, and that was with
Yeah.
Sam Laporta out. I mean,
Like I because they're playing the Colts this week. I'm gonna be honest with you, a little worried for you, man. A little
yeah,
worried for that team.
I'm not, man. It's gonna be brutal, and
Yeah.
I think they're gonna. I think Flacco's gonna enter the game again. I'll be honest with you, man. Like they're
I think Flacco's gonna enter the game, but not because like Richardson's playing poorly, but like Detroit's defense is gonna murder Richardson.
yeah, it's going to be really bad. They're going to swallow up Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's going to have much room to run. But
Yeah.
this Lions team, I love the way they play. I love the way they go about it, and for them to be able to bounce back and have such a clean game. Granted, Jacksonville's not a great team, but they play fairly good defense, and Detroit exposed them. They made them
Yeah.
look very, very bad. I just
Well, because like
I love this team,
their
man.
offense is like their offense is just doing shit that you're just like Ben Johnson, like Ben Johnson's gonna be a head coach next year somewhere.
Yeah, I
And
hope
Aaron
not.
Glenn,
I hope they ride it out. Well, I hope for him, yes, but I hope they ride it out, and
yeah,
I hope they keep this squad together because they could be in line for a few Super Bowls
I agree.
if it
But
continues.
they're like Ben Johnson's just like doing things like first of all, it helps when you have Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery.
Dude,
Let's start there.
is
That
Gibbs
helps.
not awesome to watch? Like
Yes.
Montgomery's a good running back behind this line.
Yeah.
Like he really is. I thought he was good in Chicago, but he's been very successful here. But Gibbs is like a breath of fresh air that it's like, oh, you can have two guys play the same position, but they look very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And they complement each other so well because like they're both, especially Montgomery. Montgomery's deceptively fast, but Montgomery's also the guy that will run between the tackles and just lower the shoulder
Yeah.
and just lower the boom. Whereas Gibbs will less likely do that, but like if he gets to the outside and he turns the corner, he's gone.
He's
Like you're not
gone.
catching him.
Dude,
You're
and
just not catching
it's
him.
just like, oh yeah, 25-yard pickup. No big deal.
Yeah.
And he just like
And like
trots out of bounds. You're like, okay, that took him 3 seconds to get that far. How is that possible?
and you always watch Detroit and it's like 2nd and 1, and then you're like the defense is like, I don't know what to do. And then they're just like hitting with play action, and it's just Amon-Ra St. Brown just running down the sideline for 40 yards. And you're like, that's like the one guy you wanted to cover. And yet, yeah.
The thing I love about Amon Ra too is like, yeah, he could play outside, but I think he murders it on the inside. And he's not
Yeah.
afraid. He
When
is
they
super tough, man. Super tough.
when when they put him in the slot, it's almost like a cheat code.
Yeah, it is.
It's a cheat code. Like you don't like how do you stop? You can't. Like
Him, so people want to say like, oh, he made Jared Goff good. No, they made each other very good, man. They
yeah.
really did. Like when you have two guys that want to work, like people forget Jared Goff was a number 1 overall pick. Like
I'm gonna be honest with you, I always kind of forget that.
yeah,
I do.
He
I
didn't
forget that
suck,
all the
man. Like
time.
he was good. He just people were mad because they didn't win a Super Bowl. Like
Yeah.
okay, so like now he's in a good position where a team believes in him. He believes in himself. He throws 5 picks in one game, turns around and almost throws 5 touchdowns in the next, right? Like it's
Yeah.
he just I don't know. I really I like their story all about their team. It makes me feel really good. Gives me warm fuzzy
I
feelings inside.
You know what I always enjoy is usually around Mondays, Adam Schefter will post like the video from like Dan Campbell in the locker room after games.
Yeah.
Man, I just get so hyped for that every
How
time.
does that guy even have a voice every week? Like I always
Yeah.
feel like he's lost his voice after every game, and you're just like, oh man, this guy he's awesome. He's so
Yeah.
cool.
And I think what I really love about him too is like he's just like this week he's like, all right, boys, that was 9. That's 9. And like you can tell like you can tell like everybody in that locker room loves playing for him and they love playing for each other.
Yeah.
And two, like this that you can tell there's very much unfinished business with them.
Yeah, they're not satisfied, right?
No,
Like
no,
even I saw it. I think 2 weeks ago, I saw one of the guys get a game ball on the defense, and he came up. I think he was a defensive back, had 2 picks for them, and he came up and he
yeah,
was just like, "Thank you guys for letting me keep showing up and keep doing my thing and keep playing for you guys.
yeah,
Like I really I love that you guys believe in me." And that locker room really trusts each other to try to be
yeah.
great. That's something that doesn't exist in every locker room. It
No.
definitely does not. So
And I remember like you and I were watching the NFC title game last year. After that game, like we kind of like looked at each other. We're like, boy, that's a bad loss. And like for me, I thought what was going to happen was what happened to the Chargers 2 years ago in the playoffs, where they had that bad loss, and then that kind of like submarined their entire season the
yep.
next year. And I kind of thought that's what was going to happen to the Lions because respectfully, they're still the Lions, but like they've decided like, hey, no, we're gonna go out and murder everyone because we're mad.
San
And
Francisco's
like
the
that
team
Hutchinson
that's
injury
hit
could
that.
have derailed
Oh
that locker
yeah.
room,
Oh yeah.
and it brought them closer together.
Did you see what's his name? Zadarius Smith. Did you see what he walked into the game wearing? Into the
Yeah,
stadium wearing? The Rasheed
yeah.
Wallace jersey? Because when he got traded, Detroit ended up winning the championship that year. So it was
Mhm.
like subliminal meaning. I'm like, man, these guys are so crafty. First of all, he's an enormous man. Uh
Yeah, I always forget how large that guy is,
yeah,
and then I saw him walk into the game, and it's like, oh shit.
yeah. There's a lineman out there that needs to keep him off of their quarterback. Ouch.
Yeah.
Um, good thing he joined the squad instead of going against it.
Also, fun. I don't want to call it a fun story, but like I think it shows what kind of organization the Lions are and what kind of person Dan Campbell is. So if you'll notice, last week Zadarius Smith didn't play,
Yeah.
even though he had gotten traded. So he lives in Florida, and his house got ravaged by the hurricane. And Dan Campbell was like, "Hey, go take 2 days, go take care of what you need to go take care of. You're
Huh.
not going to play this week. Like, you just focus on like getting everything in order. That you'll play next week." And like that's just like a stand up move right there. Like,
Yeah.
god damn it, like because most
Yeah.
coaches would be like, "Well, got to play," and like Dan Campbell's like, "Nah, it's there's things bigger than football."
Yeah. Personal stuff. Go deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Really, really awesome, awesome team, awesome organization. Love. I really want to see them
yeah.
have success, and I wouldn't. It would be one of the teams that I'd be the most happy for winning a Super Bowl because I know how much that would mean to the city, and I
Yeah.
know how much that would mean to those players within that locker room.
I
So,
was I was I was watching the Chiefs game with a friend of mine, my friend Dan, who's a big Bills fan, and I made the
yep,
joke, and I was like, "Can you imagine if it's Bills Lions in the Super Bowl that takes place in New Orleans? Because it's in New Orleans this year,
yeah,
and it's two fan bases. Like, no matter the outcome, they're both just going to drink themselves to death."
yeah. Like one is famous for jumping through tables.
Yeah,
The other is famous for just being notoriously bad for a number of years. Like
yeah,
and I couldn't be happier for either franchise right now. I really couldn't.
yeah. If
Um
that Super Bowl happens this year, that's like the real sign that Armageddon's here. Because
yeah.
like we've gone too far.
Yeah, we
Like we're
have.
like, ooh,
Well, let's talk about this next game that happened, and this is has I have kind of a nice segue in this for you.
mm.
So the Colts end up beating the Jets in just a crazy fashion. Now you texted me. I got to admit, man, and I don't know if this happens with other fans, but I feel literally zero connection to this team,
To the Colts or the Jets?
to the Colts.
Ooh,
I don't know.
okay,
I don't know what it is, man. Like I've watched the Colts for a number of years. And
sure.
even when they've been bad, like they cycled through some bad quarterbacks after Andrew Luck with Carson Wentz and stuff like that. I could still get behind
Oh
them.
man,
But
yeah,
but
forgot about that.
do you know what it is, man? Like all of the media that's kind of been around the Colts this year has just seemed super negative. And I think part of it, the seed was planted last year with the Jonathan Taylor holdout and kind of stuff like that. But then it
Yeah.
goes on and continues this year with like Anthony Richardson getting hurt last year, and then like, oh, okay, he's taking off plays this year, and then kind of Kenny Moore comes out and says that like people aren't working in the locker room, like they're not working hard. So
Yeah.
that did not feel good to hear, and immediately I thought like not close the book on them, but just like I'm not interested in what you're doing now. Like
Well,
that doesn't feel good to hear at all because I don't think Shane Steichen runs a team that way. But if these guys are not working, how do you expect? Like, dude, it's a game of inches,
yeah,
inches.
literally.
I
Yeah.
I don't I don't know, man. Like I know they win this game, and yeah, I'm happy for them that they were able to beat the Jets because I feel like it put the final nail in the Jets coffin for this year. Um,
I'm calling it in 2 weeks. You're gonna have a phantom Aaron Rodgers injury to end the year. Like you are. It's gonna happen. It's gonna
yeah,
happen. I can't wait.
I don't
Cannot
know.
wait.
But
Yeah.
I did want to let you know just a tidbit. The Pats and the Jets now are tied.
Oh, it makes my heart so happy. Because
Yeah.
we're dog shit, and we know that. Like it's yeah,
But very big aspirations difference in terms of aspirations at the beginning of the year. Very funny to
yeah.
see this now.
Well,
Um,
I think too with the Colts, like this, like they still are in the playoff hunt.
yeah, like it just I don't know. I just there's something really missing about this team because I see guys like Josh Downs that I really resonate with. Like I can relate to
Mhm.
what the way he plays the game. I can see the drive that he plays with. But then there's like some plays that I'm just like you have guys like kind of looking around to make a play rather than going
Yeah,
out there and actually making a play. And that doesn't feel good. Um I don't know, man. I didn't get to see much of this game, so it kind of I don't have much to say about it, but it just those are kind of my feelings on the Colts.
yeah. The Colts, the Colts seem at a weird crossroads right now, and I don't because like they still kind of don't know what they have with Richardson, and like
Yeah.
benching him, like I don't think was the right move. Like you kind of got to let him play through. Like this wasn't the year you were supposed to like contend anyway. Like you're just trying to like figure out like what you have with him.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing is like Richardson, like when it's good with him, boy, is it good. But when it's bad, oh, it is bad.
It's
Like
really bad. Yeah. Really bad.
so,
Well,
yeah,
we'll
like
see.
there's not like yeah, there's not any like real chance. Like, and this year's quarterback class isn't like great. And like you guys like kind of you guys traded up for Richardson. Like you're gonna have to lie in that bed, man, and like
For a little
hopefully it works
while.
out.
Yeah, for a
Yeah.
little while at least. All right. Moving on. The Ravens lose to the Steelers. What are your thoughts on this?
I knew we were going to talk about this, and I watched the entirety of this game, and I could hear you every time. I could just hear you in my brain the whole fucking game. I could just hear you, and I've come to a couple of conclusions. And first of all, I can admit when I'm wrong. I have no problem with that.
Yep.
And what bothers me is Baltimore's back to just not winning big games because this was a game they needed.
Hmm.
This was absolutely a game they needed, and defensively, cool. They they played like gangbusters,
Mhm.
but like Lamar was bad. He was really bad. Like minus that drive down the field at the end of the game, he was bad. And that like first of all, the 2 point play at the end to try to tie it up was like one of the worst 2 point plays I've ever seen. Jesus Christ. Like like that's your best 2 point play. That can't be. That
No.
cannot be your best play. And I think there's some cause for alarm. Um, also, we got to talk about the Justin Tucker thing a little bit because like this is now starting to become an issue.
Hmm.
And when it goes with kickers, it goes quick. And I think you're seeing that with Tucker now.
And this is a guy that was like the all-time most accurate kicker. And
Yeah.
recently he's been just not accurate. And
Missed
it's
2 kicks.
yeah, real tough for him. There's rumors floating around that he may be hurt, um, and trying to fight through that, and that that's not a good thing. But
Yeah.
I definitely think his confidence is shook. I'm not going to say you're wrong because I don't think you're wrong. So I don't think you have anything to admit there. Um,
Um, I just I was kind of drinking the Ravens Kool-Aid for a while, but like you last week we talked about this and you called exactly what was going to happen, like what the blueprint is. If you can neutralize Derrick Henry, like they're kind of the same Ravens team from last year.
Yeah, so this is the thing, and this is going to sound outlandish when I say this, but I actually feel better about the Ravens after this game than I did before.
Really? Because I feel
Yeah.
worse about them.
No, I feel better about them because I didn't think that they were that good of a team, and
Yeah,
I thought the Steelers were going to absolutely destroy them. I really thought that was going to happen. The Ravens kept it close. Yeah, Lamar didn't play great, but he's got a history of not playing well against the Steelers.
sure.
I don't think they're going to have to get past the Steelers in the playoffs. Personally, I think someone
Yeah,
else
I
is
don't.
going to beat the Steelers in the playoffs. So I don't really see it as a huge issue. Now, it could be if they play them, because he doesn't play well against the Steelers. But
No.
this is what I will say is that if if the game gets to a point where you need to throw and you're behind, you're not running the ball.
You're not. And you said this last week,
And
right?
that's something that's kind of scary because Derrick Henry is not really a pass catching back. Yeah, he can catch the ball, but that's
Yeah.
not his forte. Where Derrick Henry is great is when you've got a 3 touchdown lead and there's a whole half of football to play and you could just give him 20 carries in the second half.
Yeah.
And he's just going to run you over and wear you down. But they don't have an option to be able to do that. So I think the big thing here for me that I see is I I think they've got some work to do. I still
Sure.
don't think they have a great receiver besides Zay Flowers. And it shows, man, like and we'll
Oh
talk
yeah.
about it. We'll talk about it with Cincinnati, right? Like it's a big difference when you have a T Higgins and a Jamar Chase. Now, granted, that's a rare case, right? Like not every team has that,
Yeah.
but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, right? Like when you get
Yeah.
teams, you see how good the Rams can be with Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup. Having one receiver is not a deal breaker anymore. You
Yeah.
got to have two guys on the team that can do something. And I just don't think, like, yeah, they've got Mark Andrews, but they don't have that other. Zay Flowers is kind of like that Amon Ra type player. Yeah, he could play on the outside, but he'd be much better in the slot. And you get another guy like I thought
Yeah.
last year they should have gone after DeAndre Hopkins on the
Me
outside
too.
because I think that would
Me
have been
too.
really good for them. But
And like Isaiah likely isn't consistent enough for them.
no, 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 no. He's not. He's a freak athlete, but just not
Yeah.
consistent enough. But I
Yeah.
think the Ravens, they got some things they need to address, man. The Steelers, they look really tough with Russell Wilson, man. They play good defense, they run the ball well, and they basically are like boa constrictors, man. They just strangle the shit out of you in the game.
I'm gonna say a thing. To me, that game showed me that like Pittsburgh's a round one exit. And hear me out.
Okay.
Pittsburgh can move the ball from the 20 to the 20. No problem. That's
Hmm.
kind of they do that reasonably well.
Yep.
But boy, once they get inside the red zone, like they pucker up real quick. And like in the playoffs, you can't settle for three.
No.
That's the thing.
You
That's the
play a team
thing.
like
Like if you can't
Buffalo,
score,
it's going to be tough.
yeah, like their inability to score 20 points a game is cool because they play great defense. But like when you're playing teams like Kansas City and Buffalo, like or even Houston, like what does that look like?
Yeah, see, this is the thing. So Houston now, like another good example, right? Tank Dell, and yeah, they lost Stephon Diggs, but they have Nico Collins back, right?
Yeah,
Teams. That's why I think I see a team like Cincinnati, and I think, okay, they still have a chance because they've got that quick play ability to be able to completely flip a game on its head. I don't feel that way necessarily with Pittsburgh. I feel like it's going to take a miraculous George Pickens catch for them to score a touchdown, and that doesn't
yeah,
feel good, dude.
and that happens every week. It seems
Yeah,
like,
it
yeah,
does, but it doesn't. Can he score 3 touchdowns a game every week for them? I just
no,
don't think so, man. It's just too tough. So, really kind of a worrisome for both of those teams. But again, I think the Ravens being able to keep things close with the Steelers showed me more about them. I
yeah,
just think that when they play some of these other teams like the Bills and the Chiefs, they're gonna have to be able to do more.
I agree.
I don't know, man. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward the next few weeks because this is going to be a slaughterhouse in the AFC North. Cleveland and Cincinnati are not going away silently. They're gonna continue to play tough. So
Can we talk about Cincinnati for like a minute?
yeah, we can jump them real quick.
Yeah, I would just like to talk about them because like what I watched in that game told me all I need to know about Cincinnati, and I don't think they're making the playoffs. I really
Oh,
don't. Like I that's cool that you can throw Jamar Chase out there and Burrow's throwing for 350. Like Burrow should be there should be MVP talk about Burrow with the stats that he's putting up,
yeah, definitely. He's leading the
but it's
league
not
in
going to
passing
happen
right now. Uh-huh.
because Cincinnati can't stop anyone.
No, no, it won't. And that's the unfortunate thing. So like, and even after before going into this week, they're like Lamar has basically solidified the MVP, and it's like,
I
uh,
don't see that at all,
for
but
me,
okay.
I don't feel that way. If anything, after this week, I'm thinking Josh Allen has a good shot at it because
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about him in a minute. But Burrow, you're right. He should be an MVP candidate based on the way he's playing right now. Again, it's kind of like the Baltimore Bane, right? The kicking. McPherson misses the 2 field goals, totally uncharacteristic, and wide left by like a small margin. And
Yeah.
that game's very different if he makes those, right? Like it's just, I don't know, man. This Bengals team, I can't give up on them. I still feel like there's an opportunity for them to still get in. The Chargers, they've got some tough games coming up. The Broncos are going to have tough games. They both have to play Kansas City again. Uh, I just think there's going to be other teams that it's a possibility for them to get in. Are they going to have to play perfect the rest of the way? Probably. But
Yeah.
I don't know. The last thing I want is to look at my schedule and realize I got Joe Burrow coming to town.
Yeah, Cincinnati's not an easy out.
No, 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 no.
Cincinnati is going to play you tough because offensively, like you watched it how quick they came back against
Yeah.
the Chargers.
Yep.
Like I almost turned that game off, and
Yep.
then Cincinnati got a quick one, and I was like, I'm gonna stick around for a little bit. I want to see
Yeah.
and then I
Dude,
blinked and it was tied,
dude,
and I was like,
he's
oh
must watch TV. He really
yeah.
is. Like I hate to say it, but like he really is. And it just shows like how momentum can swing in a game very
And
quickly.
I that game told me a lot about Burrow because like the Chargers are the best defense in the league, and he shredded them.
Dude,
He absolutely shredded them in the second half.
and even on some of those plays, like they're showing it in slow motion. He's getting grabbed on the face mask and still making throws. Like dude, that guy's a dog. I
Yeah.
love watching him. I really do. I ever since I saw him get to the Super Bowl, I said, all right. And he's basically been the kryptonite for the Chiefs, man. He has. Like it's if they get into the playoffs, they'll probably be the last seed, which means if they win, they're going to play the highest seeded team, right?
Yeah.
We could be looking at like a Burrow Mahomes matchup in the second round of the playoffs. It just, I don't know.
Lord willing. Lord
Yeah.
willing. Give me
Um,
that, or give me a Josh Allen, Joe Burrow matchup again.
yeah,
Give me any combination of those three quarterbacks. Just make it happen.
I love it. And the way the Chargers are playing, like I really want to say that like Harbaugh has done something there. I know they're blaming it on culture change and all of that, but I really like the way this Chargers team has rallied around him and the mindset and the enthusiasm that he coaches with. It's awesome.
That Chargers game 2 years ago, the Chargers would have lost.
Yeah.
They would have had the big lead. They would
They
have
wouldn't have
blown it.
been they wouldn't have even been in it, dude. It would have
Yeah.
it's wild. I saw a statistic the other day that talked about the two in like the last 25 years, the two teams that have with a new head coach that have given up the least amount of points per game. The first is the Chargers with John Harbaugh with a new head coach coming in, right? At the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
The second one is Jim Harbaugh with the 49ers. So like he owns the teams that give up the least amount of points on defense as a first year head coach. I'll tell you, he's doing some special things there. I
Yeah.
love to see it. I really do. Maybe we stick in the AFC West and just knock out the Broncos real quick because they absolutely smashed the Falcons bad, and it was ugly, man.
And you know what's wild too? Like the stat that's wild of that game, the time of possession was there's a 10-second difference in time of possession.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Which tells me that Denver, the time they had the ball, they just were more efficient with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Bo Nix has been coming into his own, playing much better. The game is not too fast for him anymore, even though they were saying that in the first few weeks. Like, he needed to get his sea legs, and it seems like he's got them. Now, are they going to go and beat the Chiefs and do all that stuff? Now, I mean, I don't know, man. But Bo Nix looks more comfortable playing the game of football now. That's obvious.
they're gonna they might they're gonna at least play good teams tough.
Yeah, they play
Whether
good
they win or
defense,
not.
man. They play good defense. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I'm concerned about them pushing the ball, like really driving the ball in the postseason because it's cold. You know, how are they? Are they excellent at running the ball? Not really. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know. That's gonna come to be seen within the next few weeks here. But the Falcons, man, they better get it together because they're in free fall. And if not for the Bucks losing 4 straight, the Falcons would be out of the lead right now in the
Yeah.
NFC South. But I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with them. They got to try to get back on track here. Seattle over San Francisco. San Francisco is in last place in the NFC West.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
wow, dude. Wow. Didn't think that was
Usually,
gonna happen.
well, it's wild too, is because Seattle, Seattle had a weird bye week. Their starting center retires, and they cut their starting middle linebacker.
Yeah.
They had a weird off bye week.
It almost made me feel like I was living under a rock when I read both of those because I'm like, did
Yeah.
I miss something? Like, did McDonald just be like, yo, pack up. You guys are going to Burger King now. You're done at McDonald's. Right? Like, I don't know. Like, I just felt like I missed something. And he was very
Yeah.
polite in the way that they announced the news. So I'm like, oh man, like this is very interesting what's happening. I didn't expect them to win this game.
No, I mean what Seattle did. It was a perfect 2-minute drive, 2-minute drill. They drove 80 yards, 11 plays.
What did
Gino,
JSN get 10 of those plays?
Yeah, jeez.
He had a
You know who
day.
didn't start him? You know who didn't start him in fantasy? Because I was like, nah,
You
won't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, they usually that's a game Seattle would lose against San Francisco because San Francisco's really kind of had their number, and that was a big win for them.
Yeah.
The big win for them.
Very big for them. And might have given them a chance to kind of keep knocking on the door in the NFC there. So
yeah.
The one I really want to talk about, Buffalo over Kansas City. I mean, that just Josh Allen finally gets over the hump and does it in dramatic fashion too. Right? Like I think it was am I wrong or was it like a fourth and go?
4th and 2.
Yeah.
So I want to tell a quick story about that because right before earlier in the game, Buffalo went for it on 4th down and Allen threw a pick when they could have taken the points. And I've been saying this for a while where Kansas City just Jedi mind tricks teams into making bad choices.
Yeah.
Because they're so afraid of Mahomes. They're like, well, we got to go for it.
We have to go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand that. I get that. But then they just kind of Jedi mind trick them into bad choices. And when it was 4th and 2, and I was like, oh, okay, you're not gonna take the points. Oh, okay, cool. And then Josh Allen, it's a big boy. That's a hey, I'm the starting quarterback of this team. Get on my shoulders. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Yep. I was very happy for him, Sean McDermott. Like that was an organizational win that they really needed, and I think I'm happy for the fan base. Like, okay, Kansas City, I think is going to rebound fine from this. I think they just need to be able to. There's no more pressure about going undefeated. All of that talk can stop. They could just focus on getting back to doing what they do, playing good defense, running the ball well. Pacheco's supposed to be back, which screws me in almost every fantasy league because I have Kareem.
Sure.
But Pacheco's coming back. should be back this week, so that should be very interesting to see what happens with him. And yeah, man, it looks like they are going to be primed for the postseason because now they've got two really solid running backs that they're going to be able to really run the ball hard with.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think Buffalo at the end of the game, like the post game, I think it was very telling for them that they were like, "This is a good win, yeah, but like we got to do this in the postseason."
yeah.
And they kind of know that like while this is
Hmm.
nice, and they've beaten Kansas City in the regular season before, Kansas City still has their number in the postseason,
Hmm.
and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, it's I think
So
it's definitely going to be Buffalo got the recipe of what they need to do. They just need to be able to do more of that and replicate that going forward.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and like Mahomes didn't play well. He Yeah, it just I think this was like a throw. I don't want to say this was like a throwaway game for them, but like they just I think they knew pretty early on. They were like, all right, well, we're doing the best we can here, but like we don't win this game. They seemed fine with not winning that game. Like, and I think you're right. I think the pressure of going undefeated and trying to win a third Super Bowl was kind of weighing on them a little bit. I think now they don't have to worry about the undefeated thing.
yeah.
They can just kind of go about the rest of their season and like you know they still need to put in some work because if they want that one seed, like Buffalo's breathing up down their neck and have the tiebreaker over them now. So
Yeah.
like, and they have their schedule coming up. We talked about it last week. That schedule they have coming up is a monster
Yeah.
schedule.
It is.
Like, so
It's going to be tough. Um I'm excited to see how things are going to play out cuz like okay, so we've got what week 12 now, 7 weeks left to be able to figure out like how do the dominoes fall? Like how is this going to work out and yeah, it's it's going to be wild, man.
yeah,
I don't think we need to touch too much on it, but just Houston smashed Dallas in the battle for Texas rights. Uh, I mean, I kind of expected that, but
John, John wasn't in chat last night, and I was playing Helldivers with Rick and Bob and Bethany, and and Bob was like, "Where's John?" And I was like, the Cowboys are playing." And he's like, "Doesn't he just know they're gonna lose already? Why don't he just come? Why doesn't he just come play video games with us? It'd be a lot better."
yeah, it may be more fun,
Can't
but
argue that.
yeah,
Can't argue that.
it's too bad. It's too bad. But Houston, I mean, Joe Mixon's looking good. He had
3 touchdowns.
yeah 3 touchdowns in it, but he just ran the ball really, really well. And yeah, man, it Dallas, obviously, I think they're. I laughed because I think one of their linebackers came out this week and was like, "Oh yeah, like we still own Texas or something." It's like,
Do you?
no, it's tough to say that. And like, way to give Houston bulletin board material to come
Yeah,
out
the
and
only
say,
thing you're gonna own is a top 5 pick this year. That's it.
yeah, yeah, that's true. And one that won't get paid in 5 years or argue to get paid in the next
Yeah,
5 years. So,
yeah.
um, so we kind of have some ho hum business to discuss.
Yep, it's time, and yep, is what it is.
All right.
You want to announce it or should I?
No, you can. I want it to hit the way you want it to.
Yeah, so I got eliminated in Guillotine League after talking an inordinate amount of shit last week that our friend John got eliminated, or that you almost got eliminated,
Yeah.
and that team, I spent all of my free agent money, and every one of my free agents that I picked up got hurt, and it was just it was time. It was time. I got eliminated. I only lasted till like week 3 last year, so the fact that I got this far, to like what week 11,
Yeah.
like I'll take.
Yeah, it's sad to
So
see. Sad to
you
see.
know you can't win them all, and
No.
it's okay.
No, you can't. It's an
Yeah,
unfortunate thing, but you'll be welcome back next year, and I'll make sure I give you a nice get well
I
soon
appreciate that. Yeah,
message. So
appreciate
and
that.
you avoided, you didn't mention it, but you did avoid having to be able to go and do some sort of crazy thing for fantasy by getting eliminated super early.
Yeah,
We should extend that next year to like week 5 or something like that, just to because now we've got our feet wet, we know what we're doing.
sure.
Now maybe we should, and I may come to regret that. Maybe we do it
Oh
for
man, I hope so.
yeah.
I
So
hope so.
but yeah, next year you will be welcome back in. As will you actually, if you look at it this way, you beat Roger by 10 weeks.
Yep, and I beat John. That's all that matters. Our
Yep.
friend John, I beat him. I beat him.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to mention before we bounce out?
No, we'll next week we'll talk about baseball awards because those started getting handed out last night
Yeah,
and
they did.
they're making it like a week long thing. So yeah, so we'll talk about that next week and we'll talk a little MLB free agency. Some big deals already happening. Yeah, we'll go from there.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, it's been another pleasure, and
Yeah, man.
you take care of yourself. I will see you next week. Love you, brother.
All right. Love
Peace.
you. Peace.